So hi guys, in this video we are going to learn how actually employees learn culture in an organization. Now in an organization, culture is really important, right? And you have learned what do we understand by organizational culture. Now in an organization, employees learn culture through four options or through four elements. Number one, stories. Number two, rituals. Number three, material symbols. And number four, language. Now what is stories and how actually an employee learn culture through stories? I mean, how an employee actually would learn culture of an organization with the help of stories. Now stories are those kind of elements which can gain an understanding of culture, or the employees can actually gain an understanding of culture by hearing stories that actually present the past and provide explanations of current practices. Now suppose an employee actually joins in the organization, and today that employee's first day, or he or she is actually encountering the first day of the in the organization. Now maybe he can learn the culture by hearing some stories from his or her colleagues. Suppose one of his or her colleagues can say that, we actually get our things done by 4 because at 4:30 we actually have a meeting. Now by hearing that story, the employee gets an idea that okay, at 4:30 or at 4 we have to attend a meeting, and that's why we need to wrap up all our works by 4. And this is the culture of the organization. Or suppose one of his or her colleague can say that, we actually have a celebration night every month to celebrate the employees, and we celebrate the employees success. So by hearing this story, the new employee can learn the organizational culture, that okay, every month in this organization people actually celebrate employee success. So with the help of this kind of stories, the a new employee or the employee actually gets to learn about the different cultures of an organization. Also they can actually learn why the current practices are being done in the organization. For example, the employee can learn, or the employee can hear some stories of past, that in previously we used to do like that, but after doing those certain things, the consequences was this, and that is why we actually don't practice that thing anymore, and we are actually focusing on the new practices. So by hearing that story, the employee can know, okay, we are not allowed to do that kind of thing because that actually happened previously in the past and the consequences was not good. And that is why maybe in recent time we are actually following another rule in order to complete our task. So this is how stories can be a great way to understand the culture, and stories can actually teach an employee the culture of an organization. Now rituals, what is rituals? Rituals means repetitive sequences of activities that actually express and reinforce the key values of the organization. That means some of the activities, if we actually do that on a repeated way, or we actually repeatedly do something, that activities actually becomes and rituals. For example, every Poila Boishak we actually celebrate in the organization. We actually celebrate Poila Boishak every year in a grand way in the organization. That becomes a ritual, and people actually become excited, or people actually learn that okay, this organization celebrates festivals. So rituals actually is a good way to get to know the culture of an organization. For example, in some of the organization, there are called standout meeting. Every morning for 10 to 15 minutes, everyone gathered together, they make a circle and they discuss that what we did yesterday, what we are going to do today, and what we are going to do tomorrow. So this meeting, if you actually do this in a continuous way, it actually becomes a ritual. And a new employee or an employee can learn culture of that organization by observing that repeated activities, and the employee would learn the culture of that organization, that okay, every morning we actually gather together, and we actually form a circle, and we actually discuss what we did yesterday, what we are going to do today, what can happen in tomorrow. So this actually becomes a rituals, and this is how an employee actually learn organization's culture. Now material symbols, now how material symbols can teach an employee the culture of an organization, because material symbols means acceptable attire, office size, nature of the office furnishings, executive perks that convey to employees who are important in the organization. Now what is executive perks? Executive perks means the top level employees, if the top level employees get some extra benefits, that is known as executive perks. For example, car, 24/7 car, or a full furnished flat, and of course these executive perks are not for everyone, it is for the top level executives, right? Now how, with the help of acceptable attire, employees can learn culture. For example, let's take example of Google and Apple. In Google, the employees can wear even a three quarter, they can wear casual t-shirt, they can wear casual shorts and whatever they like to wear. But Apple has an uniform, or Apple has a code of attire where they need to dress up in a formal manner. So with the help of this attire, you can actually learn the culture of organization. How? For Google, since they are allowed to wear casual t-shirt, three quarters, you can actually guess that the culture is friendly, the culture is flexible, the culture is flat structure. But in Apple, if you see that everyone is wearing formal, everyone is talking in a formal manner, you can easily get an idea that okay, Apple is more bureaucratic, Apple is more formal, and the culture is more formalized. Now office size or the nature of the sitting arrangement, in Google there is no definite sitting arrangement, there are bean bags, there are cozy chairs and everything. But in Apple, that is about Google, right? In Google they have bean bags, and they have cozy chairs, they have colorful furnitures and whatnot. But in Apple they have very defined formal settings, and they have actually very formal seating arrangement for the employees. Now with the help of this seating arrangement, you can also guess that Google is more friendly, Google is more flat in structure, but Apple is more formal kind of office, right? So this is how you can actually learn the culture of an organization, with the help of attire, with the office size, with the sitting arrangement, and etc. Now language, the last but not the least, language. Now language, in every organization they have some specific language, jargon, that we call that specific language is jargon, or special ways of expressing oneself to indicate membership in the organization. For example, in the NGO you would say that apa bhaiya culture. For example, you can actually call your MD as bhai, or you can call your MD or the head of the organization as apa. Now with that apa bhaiya culture, you actually get an idea that everyone is treated equally, or there maybe the hierarchy is not that greater sense, or even if there are hierarchies, you can actually have a free access to communicate properly. So this is the culture of NGOs. But in there are different kinds of office where you actually have to address sir to your seniors, or to your the person who are more designate your the person who has higher designation than you. So in for those culture, you can understand that those kind of jargons, those kind of language actually indicates that they are more of a culture which promotes formal things. So this is how stories, rituals, material symbols, language, this is how with the help of these four things you can actually learn culture. Now let's move on towards the next part. Creating an ethical organizational culture. Now, of course, every organization should incorporate ethics in their culture, because without ethics, without transparency, the culture will collapse very soon. So of course you actually need to have ethics in organizational culture. Now, in terms of being ethical in an organization, what are the key aspects? Now, for example, if I'm saying that I have an ethical organizational culture in my organization, then I should have the following characteristics. The following characteristics of organizations that develop high ethical standards. Three characteristics. Number one, they need to have high tolerance for risk. That means even if I'm doing some mistakes, we have to be tolerant enough. We need to encourage those things, that okay, if this makes sense, you can take risk. Of course you cannot take unnecessary risk, but there should be high tolerance for risk, so that people, even if the people are doing something risky but in an ethical way or in a good way, the organization will endure those risks. Now, low to moderate in aggressiveness. Now, what is low to moderate in aggressiveness? Of course, in order to survive in business, you need to be aggressive, right? But that aggressiveness should be in low to moderate. If you are very high in aggressiveness, there is a high chance that you will not consider about your employees' well-being. Because you are aggressive, you want to have all those things faster, you want to have profit in a faster way, you want to grow very fast manner. Of course that sometimes that can breach the privacy, that can breach the ethical standard, or because you are very aggressive, you might not consider the transparency, or you might not consider the rules and regulations perhaps. So that is why, if you are actually promoting ethical culture in organization, you should be aggressive but in a low to moderate way. And focused on means as well as outcomes is the third characteristics. That means not only we should focus on the outcome or result, we should also focus on how we are achieving that outcome. Now, if we are actually achieving outcome in an illegal way or in an unethical way, of course that's not a healthy way to achieve the a result or a good thing. So not only you need to focus on the outcome, but also you need to focus on the means or the way you are actually achieving those outcomes. That is another characteristics of an ethical organizational culture. Now, how you can actually promote this ethical culture in the organization? Now, if you want to promote, or if you want to see your organizational culture is practicing ethics, you need to do that yourself as well, right? If no one does that, of course employees will not do that things or will not practice those things as well. That's why number one is you need to be the visible role model. As the head or as being in the management position, if you don't practice this kind of ethical practice, or if you don't practice this kind of ethical issues, please do not expect that your employees will follow the ethical practices. It's not possible, right? So you need to be a visible role model. You need to communicate the ethical expectations. If you don't communicate with your employees that what is the expectations, of course the employees won't understand that what they should do, what they should portray, how they should actually move forward in the organization. So you actually need to be very clear, you need to be very detailed, you need to give full instruction regarding practicing this kind of ethical characteristics. And of course sometimes, even after communicating, there are some employees or there are some issues where you actually need to provide training. So in case of those kind of issues, you need to provide ethical training. For example, how to treat your employees in an equitable manner, or how to be gender sensitive. This kind of things should be promoted, this kind of things should be communicated, this kind of things should be you should give training on, right? Now, you should visibly rewarding ethical acts and punishing unethical ones. Of course, don't you think that you should actually reward if someone is following ethical practices, if someone is showing ethical acts, you should reward those person. And if someone is doing something wrong, of course you should punish those unethical ones as well. Otherwise employees won't get that hint. Otherwise employees won't get that feeling that okay, if I'm doing something wrong I will be punished, so better not to do that, and if I do something good I will be rewarded, so better to do good things. Now, providing protective mechanisms. Now, what is providing protective mechanism? Providing protective mechanism means you actually need to have a rules and regulation, so that the employees can be protected, or you actually have to have some rules, policies, procedure in your organization which will protect all these ethical practices in the organization. So this is how you actually should practice promoting an ethical culture. In the last part it says write the above mentioned points in complete sentences. Well, I have actually discussed all these points in complete sentences, so I don't think so you would face any problem or difficulties in order to explain all these characteristics and how you should actually practice promoting an ethical culture, right? Now, the last part of this video is how to create a positive organizational culture. Now, you can ask that, Miss, what is the difference between ethical culture and positive culture? Both are same. Yes, both are on the good line, or both are actually aligned in a good way. But there is a slight difference. The difference is ethical culture is promotes ethics, promotes transparency, whereas in positive culture people actually learn and develop. That means in a positive culture the employees would flourish, the employees would develop their skills, the employees can learn new things, and ultimately the employees can move forward. So of course in an organization you should promote both, not one, or not only ethic or not only positive organizational culture, but you should promote both. That means in my organization I have transparency, I have ethical standards, people do everything in a legal way, in a transparent way. Not only that, but also my organization's culture is positive, where people can learn, people can develop themselves, people can grow and move forward. So in a positive culture you need to build on employee strength. That means you need to motivate the employees, you need to give the employees tasks which focus on their strength, you need to help the employees to discover their strength, what is their strength, you need to share those good things, and you need to build on the strengths of individual employee. That means you need to encourage the employees, and you need to actually focus on the employees good part or the stronger part, and you should give or allocate tasks as per the employees stronger part. If someone is very good at presentation, you should actually encourage that person to give presentation, or you should involve that person into presentation in a more in a greater sense. Now, rewards more than it punishes. That means of course you will punish the employee, of course you will do that, but also if someone is doing good, or if someone is doing something in a right manner, you need to promote that in a greater sense. You need to articulate. People in the organization or the managers actually have a tendency that if employees are doing something wrong, they can point that out in front of everyone. But if that employee is doing something good, that manager actually do not have the tendency to praise that employee in publicly, or the manager sometimes do not even praise that employees at all. So you actually need to praise your employees more than the visible punishment. Of course punishment will be there, but if someone is doing something good, you need to focus on that thing in a greater sense. Now, emphasizes individual vitality and growth. Now, of course, not every employee will be strong in every aspect. So, of course, you should build on employee strength. You should focus on employee strength, and at the same time you need to work on the employees weaker part as well. If someone is hesitant to give presentation, okay, do not ask him to present that in the first place, but why don't you provide him a perfect training, or why don't you motivate him so that he can overcome his weaknesses? And once he is overcoming his weaknesses, you can ask him to practice, and then you can ask him to give the presentation. So this is how you can emphasize on individuals vitality and help them to grow. Now if some employee is very strong in one part, and if the employee is not very strong in another part, and you are actually focusing on the strength and you're not working on that weaker part, of course the employee will not be able to grow. As the organization, if you are actually creating positive organizational culture, you need to focus on the strength and you need to work on the weaker part as well, so that the employees learn and employees grow. Now of course there are some limitations of positive culture. uh, all the following, all the above discussed discussions may not be applicable for all the organization or everyone within them. There will be some employees, even if you try to focus on their weaker part, even if you want to work on the weaker part, they might take it as a they might not take it as a very positive manner. They might think that why you are working on my weaker part, there must be some motive, and the employee can be suspicious. So of course this is the limit of the positive culture. So in this video we have actually covered how employees learn culture. Employees learn culture through four things, right? Stories, rituals, material symbols, and jargon or language. After that we have discussed ethical culture, how to promote ethical culture, and then we have discussed how to promote or how to create positive culture in the organization. And we have also discussed the difference between ethical and positive organizational culture, and how we should incorporate both the ethical and positive organizational culture, right? That means that you do not need to focus on only ethics, or you do not need to focus on only positive. You should combine both the ethics and positiveness if you want to build a good organizational culture. So this is all for today's video. I hope you have enjoyed the video. Stay safe and take care, and see you in the next video, guys. Take care.